Good morning. Welcome to another Simple Truth. Welcome back to another Simple Truth. We've taken the last few weeks off as we have attempted to put our resources in some other places, but we're back with a weekly, hopefully challenging and encouraging thought process. As we've gone through these last 8 weeks or so, there's a lot of things that have happened that have had me scratching my head, either positively or negatively. Probably you have been in that exact same place as you're looking around and trying to figure out the new norm. And the question that I continually am bringing before you on Simple Truth is, are you being or are you doing? And if your focus is on being, well, then you probably are finding this pandemic and what has happened, the reactions to this pandemic, are probably a little bit frustrating as you've had to readjust your doing to your being. But you've still hopefully been able to find ways to do because you're being who you are. If your focus has been on just simply doing, that your being comes from your doing, well, then you might be at a place right now where really you have been entering a stage of not just disappointment and frustration, but discouragement and maybe even despair, because your value has been taken away from you if what you do has been taken away from you. I found this example to come to life for me a couple days ago when I was able to do a funeral for some friends from some church family members. And the whole entire experience was so different than normal. I like doing funerals. I love coming up alongside people in that particular moment. It is wonderful to get to see people who pull back the curtain on their emotions, on their feelings, and really get to minister to them. Now, that doesn't always happen, but when it does, it really encourages me that people are real for a second, instead of consistently putting up a facade of strength when they don't necessarily have that strength. We don't always put on our happy face, and sometimes we get so used to doing that people don't really know who we are or what we're thinking or even how we're feeling, so they don't really know how to take care of you. And so in a funeral setting, I get to come up alongside and take care of people that I might not normally get to take care of. So anyway, I went to this funeral, and I am used to being very interactive in nature at a funeral. Lots of hugs, lots of handshakes, lots of listening to stories, lots of tears, lots of all kinds of things. And so when I went to the funeral home, who did everything appropriately, by the books, they took great care of the health of the people who were there. They were doing the right thing. They have learned how to do from their being. They just changed. They were still taking care of people, still walking up alongside people. It's just in a different way. And I was encouraged by that. That somehow, that probably the standard that they had been used to for years and years had changed. No longer were you having long lines of people waiting to shake hands and get to go to the viewing and then get to be a part of the funeral. No, instead, in this big funeral home, there were 10 people, 10, all with masks, all spread out, all family members, sisters, brothers, aunts and uncles, cousins, but yet they were still appropriately separated out. And I found it frustrating in nature while I was admiring how the funeral home was able to do. I found it frustrating. I was not prepared for how different of an experience it was. All of a sudden, people were 12, 15 feet away from me, and then they were all 6 feet away from each other. The atmosphere of the funeral was totally different than what I had been used to, what I had been prepared to minister. And so I had to tried to figure out how to be who I was while doing it differently. And it was a great experience. The family was fantastic. They came up alongside me and they helped me to do that. Still heard about the story, still was able to be compassionate, still was able to offer grace to people, still was able to be compassionate towards people, empathetic, sympathetic, all of the words that come to mind when you think of what is needed at a funeral home. Offering words of encouragement, all while doing it from a distance. Not at all how I would like to do it, not at all what I would want to do, just simply where we are right now. And so here's my challenge to you. Have you stopped doing because you can't do it the way that you've always done it? Or have you used this 8 weeks to be creative? How can you still reach out to people? How can you still take care of people? How can you still come up alongside people? You know, words today are just as important as they were. They just can't be accompanied by the physical part. But that doesn't mean we stop giving the words. It doesn't mean we stop checking in on people. It doesn't mean that we stop offering people hope and encouragement. We still do, because it's who we are. As Christians, we are to give an account of the hope that we have. Give a reason for the hope that we have. That doesn't stop because we can't do it in a church service, because we can't do it in funeral homes the way that we used to, because we can't do it at weddings the way that we used to, because we can't do it in small groups the way that we used to. We still have a responsibility to tell people about Jesus and to be Jesus, offer people a hope. We still have that responsibility. The challenge is, and the simple truth is, how are you going to do that now? How are you going to be Jesus with the current parameters? Or are you just simply going to fight against the parameters and bang your head against the wall and demand that you be able to do it the way that you have always done it and the way you want to do it? That doesn't seem very Jesus-like to me. Jesus found new ways of reaching people. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, the teachers of the law, they hated that about Jesus. So, how are you being Jesus to those around you today?